Is up to where we'll be having like in intermediate representation.
We'll confirm and tell you tomorrow. Till last class, whatever has been covered, it is there.
Ma'am, today's class that ma'am told me that.
That day, ma'am.
Today's class, it will be there, students.
Okay.
Anyway, it's the last topic. So till here it will be there, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, Gautam. Because
Okay.
Okay. So last class we started discussing about the linear intermediate representation. So in that we just discussed how the intermediate representation form linearly would be represented. For that we require three ways we can represent it. So the first one was the one address code, where we use the stack, that is the accumulator would be used. So we can even call it to be as a stack machine code also, and we can how we would be representing it, because it is a stack. So push pop instruction. So only one argument we can do it at a time. So how it has to be arranged. So by seeing one example, by using one example, we have discussed with respect to the one address code. Then we discussed about the two address code, but which is not mostly used. The reason is because of the destructive operation. And then we discussed about the three address code. So how it would be represented. So when we say three address code, we have three arguments, two arguments for doing the operation, and the third argument is for storing the result. So when we are saying that a linear intermediate representation, we will be having the operation also mentioned as such. Operator, that is the operation what we have to apply, that also has to be mentioned explicitly. So when we go for implementation, so how do we implement it? So for implementation purpose, we discussed about how we represent it. So that is by using quadruple and by using triples, how we can represent it. So these were the things which we have discussed in last class. Okay. So continuing with the last class, that is continuation of the implementation part. So we have seen all the three representations, that is quadruple, and then with the triples, and with the in the triples itself, indirect triples also. Okay. So when we go for these three representation, better one is going for the triples, because where we use the sequence. So when we say sequence, which is nothing but where we can a sequential order. So it is how we can, when we compare it with respect to the implementation part, how we can implement it. So triples, it's easy for us to implement. Why? Because we can simply use the array concept, right? So how we can, because it's in the sequential order, so we also know how array works. So that index part itself, we can make it to be as the, we can make use of the index, and that is the sequence, and we can easily map it. So how we can implement it? We have this. We just saw by using the three ways. That is by using the simple array. That is the triple concept. Or that same concept, instead of arrays, we can even use array of pointers. So how it would be? So we will be having an index where we will have the pointers maintained, and each pointer would be pointing to each location, each triples. Or we can even implement it by using the linked list concept. So if you have the one pointer mentioning the starting of the sequence, then that pointer would be the pointer for that particular one would be pointing to the next one, next instruction. So next instruction. So like this, we can implement it by using the linked list concept also. So these are the three ways how we can implement this concept. Okay, the linear intermediate representation, that too, especially for the three address code, by using triplets how we can, the triples, how we can implement it. Now we will see, so for the example which we have taken here is a minus 2 multiplied by b. So first, as we have discussed, we know, all of us know that when we go for the associativity, multiplication should happen and then the subtraction should happen. So keeping that in mind, so first we were taking the argument value 2, that is the 2 has been first, the constant value has been taken into a temporary variable, and then b has been taken into another temporary. That is nothing but these, I can say it to be as the registers. And then we are applying the multiplication operation onto the variable t1 and t2, and the result is getting stored in t3. And then we are pushing the next variable a, which is taken into the other variable t4, the register t4, and then we are applying the subtraction operation. Okay. Onto that is t4 minus t3 will be done, and the result will be stored in t5. So this is what this is how this particular expression is getting solved. Okay. So that same example we have shown it by using array of pointers as well as linked list concept. Okay. Now we will see in terms of that is when we go for any rearrangement, that is instruction scheduling part. When we go, what are the things, how each thing will be working. Okay. So that is what is the next few slides we will discuss about. So when we go for the next cycle, that is like instruction scheduler, how it works. So when we say these instructions, when we take up the first one, which is 2, which is a constant value which we have to load. Okay. So when which we can say it to be as load immediate, right? Now, but when you take the next two instructions, that is T2, that is the variable B and variable A, when you take these two instructions, which we have to, that is these two variables, which we have to load from memory. So when you say load instruction will work in two ways. One is the constant value you are pushing. The other one is these two are from memory, which we are taking. Right. So when we are applying load instruction, that too from memory, when you are reading, the number of cycles which you are going to take will be more. Right. So what we could do to save some cycles, what we could have done, we could have pushed these two load instructions before the constant value load instruction. So if you are going to do something like that, how these three, if you are implemented by using simple array, how it would have done. If you are implementing by using array of pointers, how it would have done. Similarly, by using linked list, how it would have done. Can you just imagine when you have to swap certain contents if you take up for the simple array concept? If you have to swap some contents from one location to another location. So swapping concept has to be done. Especially when you have done your sorting algorithms, the same logic will be applied here also, right? So can you just imagine how we were doing it? So we require some temporary variable, and we were pushing some contents from one thing to a temporary one, and then you are modifying it, and then whatever was the actual one, you are to the third variable, you are pushing the contents from the temporary variable. That is, the swapping concept was being used, right? So the same thing will be the one which you do it by using simple array. If you are taking up, that is the same concept which you would be doing it, right? Hope you can imagine when you were just swapping certain, when we say instruction scheduling means, which is nothing but we were pushing some instructions above and some instructions little later, right? So some swapping should have been done. So when we are swapping it, so this is what is the usual way of copying the contents in from one location to another location in the array, simple array concept when we use, right? Similarly, when we go for array of pointers, is it different? There also, it is the same thing, but the point is instead of moving the contents of your what we say of that particular locations, here we would be we would be applying the swapping concept onto the pointers. Okay, that means the address contents would be the one which we would be swapping. We don't have to exactly swap the contents as such. We just have to swap the pointers. So pointers means which is the address contents has to be swapped. Okay. Rest all remains same. Here also we have to apply the swapping concept itself. Okay, but only difference is there you are applying it onto the contents of your 3 address code. That is the triples. But here we are applying it onto the pointers. That is the only change. Rest all remains same. Okay. Coming to the linked list, what happens here also? The what is the difference? What we have to have here? Here also we will be having the same thing. That is the linked list means when the pointer which you are pointing to has to be pointed to the, that is the second one should be moved up. That means when we say second one should be moved up means the starting address should be pointed. If you can just imagine here, the second one, say this is the linked list which we are saying, right? So this pointer should be pointed here, and this pointer which it was pointing here should have been pointed to this one, and this was this T4 equals A. This pointer should have been pointed to this one, and this pointer will be pointing to this location, and this one will be pointing to the last one. So here also the computation wise it remains the same, but only thing is here also you are just moving the pointer concepts instead of that is the the pointer which you are supposed to point has to be modified. The link you are cutting from one place and you are putting it pointing it to the next one. So that is the one which you are doing it here. But when you do it for the linked list, you just have to make sure that you traverse through the entire list. Okay, so that is the thing which you are supposed to do when you go for the linked list. Hope you are able to imagine how it is, because we these concepts already you have studied, that is pointer, array of pointers, arrays, linked list. So you just have to imagine how it would have been, how you would be coding it. Okay, so computation wise, almost everything would be same, because the swapping is the one which you are supposed to do it. Only difference is like difference is like for when you go for arrays, you are supposed to apply it onto the contents directly. When you go for the pointers, it there you would be applying it onto the address. So swapping would be done on with respect to the address contents. So that is the difference as such. But there is one more difference, main difference. What it could be? Can you just guess? When you say arrays and linked list, what could be the difference when you compare array and linked list?
The size.
Size is the one. So as you said, it is the size. So when we go for the arrays or array of pointers, you in the initial place itself, that is at the beginning of your front end, when you are doing itself, at that time itself, you are supposed to initialize your arrays. That is the how much size you would be having it. So that declaration should have been done. Okay. Only then you based on the requirement or something, you would be using it. Okay. But the declaration of your array, how much, what should be your requirement, should have been declared at the beginning phase of your compilation itself. That means during your front end part itself, it has to be initialized. But when you go for linked list, that thing is not required. As and when that is as you as many statements you are having, accordingly you can keep linking it. So that is the other main difference when compared with arrays and your linked list concept. So but certain things, certain advantages are also there. That is like when you go for arrays and all, that too especially for array of pointers, it is easy for swapping part. Whereas in linked list, you have to there also you are just breaking the link from one place and you are putting it to the next link. But you have to make sure all the links that is you traverse through all the links, so that you have to make sure. So it has the advantage as well as disadvantage in terms of space as well as in terms of computation. So accordingly, you have to decide which one you want to use it for your compilers. Okay. But now, as most of the machines are not worried about the space part and all, so most of the compilers they would prefer going for linked list concept. Okay. So we just explained the same concept, the concept of this linear intermediate representation by using a simple expression. You can even try it out by using for this expression, that is a multiplied by 2 plus a multiplied by 2 multiplied by b. This example we have already discussed for the graphical one, if you remember. So the same thing, you can just try it out using for linear intermediate representation also. Move on to the next representation, which is the hybrid one. So the last one which we have to discuss is the hybrid one. So in the hybrid, which we have already discussed, is the the control flow graph. Okay. Today morning I took context free grammar, so it was coming out. Okay, so the control flow graph, which we have already discussed, that is a part of hybrid intermediate representation. So as continuation of hybrid intermediate representation, the second one which we had to discuss is the static single assignment form. Okay, in short, we can call this to be as SSA. Okay, so before going for the static single assignment form, what you have to understand is in your program, that is when we go for this compilation, whenever this point we have already discussed when we were discussing about the data flow graph. Remember dependency graph, data dependency graph. Whenever we have the data flow, we were just numbering it. And accordingly, we were just pointing to from one place to another place. So this is similar to your data dependency. Okay. Here in this SSA, that is the static single assignment form, what they do is here they maintain the information about flow of control. That is the control flow of your entire program. Along with this, the data flow also will be maintained. Okay, so both the things will be maintained in this static single assignment form. So data flow part, all of us know how it would be done. It is similar to your control flow graph, how we have done it. The same logic we will be using it here also. Basic blocks would be created. Accordingly, it would be forming it. Coming to the data flow part, flow of data. How they would do is, if suppose if you are having these variables, say if you are taking up this as the example. We have used the variable x, y, and we are having a loop statement where you are using this variable x. And then we are having this, and later we have this variable x getting incremented by 1 and variable y getting updated, which is y will be added up with the variable x. So whenever we say a loop concept, what happens? First time, whenever I'm using this variable x, it would be the initialized one, right? After that, within the loop, if I'm incrementing or decrementing it, next time onwards, I would be using that particular variable, incremented one, right? But how you would be mapping, how the system will know. So how you will inform the compiler that first time this has to be done, next time this has to be done. For that, we have a function called phi function. Okay, so this phi function, which will be maintaining, that is like which will maintain how many the arguments, that is within that particular block or within that particular how many updates we have. The phi function will decide which one is the recently updated one. That one would be the one which it will take. Okay, so in this SSA, we have the flow of data has to be maintained. So in this flow of data, how it maintains is, for that we use this phi function. In this phi function, what it does is it will be maintaining the variables. So that means for maintaining the variables, what they do is they will just maintain it by using some serial number. Okay, so in that serial number, this phi function, what it does is the recently updated value, which one is going to have the recently updated value, that one will be the one which it will be taking up. Okay, so this phi function helps you do this process. So I will just show you how this SSA would be, how for this original program, how it would have been created, the SSA form. So how this happens is whenever you are initializing any particular variable, first time whenever you are initializing any variable, it will just initialize it starting from 0 or 1. Okay, you based on the program, based on the compiler, how it has been designed. So either it would have been index starting from 0 or it would have been index starting from 1. So accordingly, you can start it. So here in this example, I have started it with 0. So first time I'm using this variable x. So x has been denoted to 0. Okay, so x0. Y also for the first time I'm using it. So I have denoted to be as y0. So these two variables has been initialized with some value. Okay, and we have a loop. So whenever I say loop, it is similar to our control flow graph. So how it does, it will be converted to if statement. So if first time what we are doing and taking up, it is x0. So x0 greater than or equal to k. If this condition satisfies, we have to go to the next. So go to next. So next, what statement it has to do, that has been mentioned in dot. So it will execute the all the operations accordingly. If this condition doesn't satisfy, what happens? I have just created another label, a loop, where I have mentioned this part portion and the condition. So here what happens? First time x has been, that is I have to apply x is equals to x plus 1, right? So that means I am updating the same variable x1, x, right? So whenever I'm updating it, I will just increment that particular variable, that is that sequence number would be just incremented. So initially it was 0. So I just incremented it to 1. Okay. So x1. So x1 is the one which I have represented here. What does x1 will have? First time when I am saying this x1, it is going to take the initial value. Next time onwards, whatever is the updated one. Okay. So for that, I just maintained a name called x1. I have called this phi function where x0, x1, x2 is the one which I have mentioned. So x0 and x2, what are these two? First time, the initial value is stored in x0. X2 is the one which within this loop I kept on adding the same previous x value and updating it. So that I have sequenced the number, what I have maintained is x2 in the sequence. So phi function, what it does is the updation, whether it could be a recently updated value, whether either if it is in x0 or in x2, accordingly, it will be assigned to the x1 variable. Okay. So similarly, see here, y equals y plus 1 has to be done. So I'm just numbering it. So initially I have numbered this to be as y0. I am numbering this to be as y1 and I'm numbering this to be as y2. So what happens? When I say y1 is dependent on which two values? It is dependent on y0 and y2. So I have applied a phi function where this phi function will help me help me take the recently updated value. So from which two? From the previous initial value, which is y0, or if you enter into the loop, it will be from y2. So accordingly, y1 will be getting the value. So for that, first I have first I'm calling this phi function and I have passed the arguments. So when I'm passing the arguments, I should know the sequence. So which one within that particular block, which variables? If you are opening a new block and using in the same variable name, then it will be numbered differently. Then it would be numbered starting from 0 again. Okay. And here y2 equals, if you see this expression, y2 equals y1 plus x2. Okay. So x2 is nothing but this x2, whatever is the recent updated one, that will be the one which will be taken up. So this is in the sequence. So we don't have to we don't have to do any more phi functions here. Here in this place, we need a phi function because this variable x1 is the one which is first time it takes the previous initial one and then it takes the later part, updated values. So only this x1 and y1 are the one which require phi function. So separately, I have called the phi function and maintained it. Once I come after this, I'm having the if statement. So what is the condition? Based on, that is x less than k. So based on which value it is. Now I don't require anymore the initial value. I require it based on the second value. So second value means which is based on x2. So x2 less than k. If this condition is satisfied, go to loop. Otherwise, it will just come to the next instruction and it will be executing it. Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, according to in the loop, the first line we have x1 gives phi x0 and x2, but x2 comes only in the picture after second line, which is third line. So x1 gets updated to x2 in the third line, but we are using x2 in the first line.
First line. So that's what this phi function, what it does is it will this will keep track of from which is the recently updated one. Recently updated variables value will be assigned to this.
So initially x2 is not updated.
Not updated.
Okay.
So phi function is which will help you tell about the placements part, where the variable, where it is. So which one you need to take. Which value you need to take. So this is already built in one, so which is already existing. So that function you just have to use it. Okay. So the point here is you are using the same variable name. Only difference is based on the sequence. Okay, so the definition remains same, but the value remains different. I mean, name remains same. The values keeps changing. Okay. So which one you are referring keeps changing. Okay. So if suppose within this loop itself, if suppose if I within this loop I'm saying x less than k, y I am using it. Say I'm having int y once again. What happens? Within that loop I am saying int y. So that means the y within that block, it is different one, not same as the above one, right? So when I start creating the numbers, sequence number, it will be different one. So I will be starting from 0 onwards. So within that loop, if I have y variable declared, so it will be y0. So that means y variable declared as well as later I will be defining it. So that time I will once again start with y0. And anyways, it will be more clear next topic which we will take up is the symbol table. So that time all these regarding the block, that is how when we are creating the symbol, that is whenever we create a symbol and when you are defining it, how the symbol table will be maintained. So that time it will be more detailed. We will be discussing it. So right now you just have to know we have a 5 function here, and then what this 5 function will have is what are the variables which you are updating. So 2 variables will be mentioned. So this 5 function takes care of taking the contents. Okay. So we'll see a few more examples just to make you clear with this SSA part. So in this SSA, what we have first thing is based on the variables, that is the temporary variable values. So that is nothing but the sequence order. Say here, this is the original code we have given. A equals B plus C, B equals C plus 1, D equals B plus C, A equals A plus 1, E equals A plus B. Okay. So for the first time, whenever we are using, as I said, you can start with 0 or 1. Okay. In this example, I have started, it has been started with 1. So for the first time, when you have used it, it has been taken to be as 1. So A1, B1, C1. Okay. After that, if you see B equals C plus 1, which C, did you update anytime the C? No. So the previous C itself. So if you see C1 plus 1. But here you see you're updating the variable B. B was already used, which was numbered to be as 1. So now you have to increment it. So it will become 2. Okay. After that, the third expression, if you see D equals B plus C. So which B you have to use here? The updated one. So which number you will be having it? B2. So B2 plus, what about the C part? C has not been updated, so it will be C1 itself. Okay. What about D? Till now we didn't had any D, so this will be D1. Okay. After that, in the fourth expression, we have A equals A plus 1. Which A we have to use during the right hand side? So it is A1. So A1 plus 1. Once you are updating it, it has been incremented to A2. Okay. After that, the last expression what we had is E equals A plus B. So which A we have to take right now? It is A2. So A2 is the recently updated one. So A2 plus, when we say B, which is the recently updated one? B2. So when we are having simple expressions like this, we can easily number it, and that is the sequence number, we can maintain it. But when we go for loops and all, this is not the way, right? So for in those places, we have to use 5 function. Okay, hope it is clear. We'll see one more example. Say here in this if statement. Say for example, this is the same. We have converted to this form. So if you are having some if B variable, then you are supposed to execute A is equals to B. Else we have A will be initialized with C value. Once you come out of the loop, we have some other expression written for using for A. Okay. So now we have if else statement. Okay. So if your program is true, you would be traversing through, that is your A would be updated with the value B. If your condition is false, then your A would be updated with respect to C value. So how do we know it whether it will be true or false? So we can't predict it. So which one we have, what we have to do? We have to make use of the 5 function. So first time, if it is traversing through a true part, I have it is numbered to be as A1. If it is traversing through false part, it has been numbered to be as A2. Okay. Once you come out of it, we are using A variable here. So which A we have to use? So to get the updated one, we are making use of the phi function where you are passing a1 and a2 value, and it has been initialized to a new index, that is a3. And that a3 would be the one which we will be using it. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, why have we making it as A2 in else part, ma'am? Instead, if we retain it as A1, then we don't need the last step, no, ma'am. Like either ways, since it's a if else condition, only one of them is going to be executed. So A1 equal to B, else A1 equal to C, then end with A1.
End with A1. But see, when when you just map it with respect to control flow graph, how it would be? You will have two separate paths. You are saying A1 itself, A1 itself. Okay. But which A1? How do I say? If suppose if this is this if statement is within the loop, just imagine if this if statement is within the loop, then
Ma'am, even then only one A1 will come out of the if else condition, ma'am. Like after executing the full if else, I'll get only one A1 at the end. So like one A variable, AI, say something. So I'll get only one out of that if else, no, ma'am. I'm not going to get two things. So
but see this SSA, you are automating it, right? This is an algorithm which you are implementing it. So if you see here in the if part also, A is getting updated. In the else part also, A is getting updated. You are not using it. So whenever there is an updation, it increments. Are you getting my point?
okay.
When you are, this is an algorithm which is getting executed, right? Say
Yes,
here, if you are when you are executing this algorithm, what it does, whenever there is an updation, your variable is getting assigned with the new index value. So similarly here also, see in your if part also, A is getting updated with a new value. In else part also, A is getting updated with a new value. So whenever there is an updation, this algorithm, it just increments the value. So it doesn't know whether you are traversing through if part or whether you are traversing through else part. So that is the reason once you come out of it, whether you update it by using if part or by using else part. So for that reason, we are using this phi function.
yes.
As you said, if I make a small change, if I make this to be as say this is B, then what happens? I don't require this A function at all. This phi function itself is not required. I can directly say this B, it will be taken to be as 1. Here I can say it is 1. Here I can say this to be as 0. Here it will become 1 because first time whatever was the initial one that would be taken. Here there is an updation, so I'll incrementing it. So here it will be 0.
Yes.
Okay. So this SSA algorithm, how it works is whenever there is an assignment happening, it increments the value. It considers it to be as a new variable. Okay. So hope it is clear. Okay. So that's it. A few more. Okay, I'll complete this. If I'll show you one more example. I'll just finish. The last point, last topic over here is regarding the how many representations you require for intermediate representation. So how many intermediate representations are required? So if suppose if you say the front end, so we had discussed about the front end part. And in between we have middle end. So this middle end is nothing but we have different intermediate representation. So intermediate representation is just for optimizing purpose, right? So how do we represent our program in a better way so that we can achieve the optimization? So we can go for multiple rounds of intermediate representations. So so in this figure itself, it is we have shown 3 intermediate representations. So similarly, in Open64 compiler, we have 5 intermediate representations. Okay, that means you are mentioning the details are being clearly given. So when the details are clearly mentioned, that means the abstraction would be little less. The contents what you are hiding will be little less. Okay, so you can decide how many levels of intermediate representations are required when you are developing your program, that is compiler. In this intermediate representation, the last point here, coming to the model. Okay, so that is the memory model. So here memory model is nothing but we can go for registers. By using registers you can go, or by using memory concept you can go. So only these 2 ways we can use it. So it is like register to register model or memory to memory model you can choose. So when we say register to register, that means keep all your values in the registers itself. That is the load, store, all the instructions, whatever you are taking up, you do it using the registers itself. That means you don't have any limitations on number of registers. So if that is the case, then you can go for register to registers model. Okay. If suppose if you want, if you are not worried about the computation, the time and all, then your system, if your system is better enough, then you can go for memory to memory model. So that means you can keep all your values in memory itself, and based on your requirement, you can take the contents, that is load store instructions you can do. But when you are doing the load store instruction, the number of cycles required will be more. Okay, so accordingly, you can decide whether your compiler should go based on memory model or register model. So that means whether you want the values to be stored in register for faster execution, or whether you can spare, you can compromise on it, but still you want the contents to be stored safer and placed it properly, then you can go for memory model. So one example which you know, all of you know, is the RISC machines. So RISC machines are nothing but it is register model. So all the contents, whatever you have, it is stored in register. So when we go for registers, as always we say the benefit, it is easier to access the contents because it is instead of reaching till memory, it is already there in the reachable way. That is we can easily access the register contents than the contents in the memory, right? So which we can access it faster. So when we go for any models, these are the 2 models which you can decide. Okay, the next topic is symbol table, that we will discuss it later. That is in the next class we'll take up. One more example I'll try to show for SSA. My hands do sweat, so my laptop I'm not able to select. My cursor is running around. I'll just share the examples in the slide itself. If any doubts, you just see through. Tomorrow, anyways, we have lab as well as the theory part. So that time we'll just cover it. I think it's 11:34. Then stop the class. Hope it is clear, right? So SSA, which is nothing but it is it takes the whenever you are initializing the variable, you assign it with a new value, and then by using phi function, whenever you have two values coming together, that time you can make use of the phi function, and it takes the recently updated one. So all of you can leave. I'll share all the details, all the slides today. In the next class, we will be having the symbol table, which Kavita ma'am will start the class.